Okay, and okay. All right, welcome to another episode of Pursuit as we continue on the study of First John. We're going to be focusing on the latter half, verses 13 to 21 of chapter 5. And the theme for this one is going to be assurance. I don't know if we've explicitly assigned themes for the other ones, but this one's going to be assurance. So I want to open it up with, have you ever experienced a time of uncertainty? I know last episode we talked about powerlessness, but this one's uncertainty.
Yeah, I feel like there are many times that, like, there are many times that I've experienced uncertainty, and I know we talked about this last episode, but I absolutely hate it. I hate like not knowing what's gonna happen. Even sometimes, not to wrap myself out, but I kind of watch spoilers before I watch shows. I'm one of those.
Is that bad?
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't condone that, but to each their own, I guess.
I feel like in the same powerless situations we were talking about like last week, you would often just feel that sense of uncertainty in those situations because you're powerless to change anything. So unless you're just certain something bad's gonna happen,
Yeah.
But I feel like in those situations, I would definitely say there was a sense of uncertainty. I know there was one particular time, my friends, they did like an Airbnb, like an hour out of Queens, and they were doing it so they could do like a surprise party for her mom, and the address was like something South Road, but it wasn't. It was like S something road. I didn't put the S in the GPS, and there was a regular road that was like 3 towns over.
Oh.
And I had to pick up one of my friend's friends. So it's me and this girl that I don't really know that well, just driving into Long Island, trying to make small talk, and now we're lost. But we're like but there is a house that matches it, and we're like, there's no way that this small little tiny house is what they did at Airbnb on. Like, that doesn't make sense. There's no way, because I was like, well, there's gonna be like 50 people in this house for a party. How is that gonna work? And I'm just like calling them. They're like, yeah, no, we're outside. I'm like, no, I'm outside. Where are you? Like, I was like 2 hours late because like we couldn't figure out what was happening. And I was like, yeah, especially uncertainty, and then because there's someone else in the car.
Yeah, it's like extra pressure.
Yeah, and then she's like just looking at me like, what's going on? And I'm like, I can only imagine what's going through her head, especially just like, okay,
strange man is driving.
I mean, like we met before and stuff like that, but like she doesn't really know me that well, right? So I'm just like, yeah, this isn't good. But yeah, it was a really weird situation I got myself into. And then it took like 30 minutes to get from that house to the actual house. It's a horrible, horrible experience.
So, well, I guess you already said what caused your uncertainty. You had the wrong address. But I guess, like, in terms of, like, because I get your level of uncertainty, not enough to watch spoilers before I watch something, but, like, the uncertainty in, like, everyday little, like, events. What causes that uncertainty, I guess? Because is it just like the unknown, or is it the fact that you can't trust what it is, like you have no trust in what it is that you're going to do or see, I guess?
I want to say that it's just like the fear of the unknown. And I think not knowing causes anxiety in me. And so that's why I would rather like know it's like coming before it happens, so I can like mentally prepare myself for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's like a show?
I don't always
I'm
do
sorry.
it. I don't always do it, but like sometimes I'm just like, I just want to know.
I do it if I know I'm not going to finish the show.
Oh, okay.
Like, there was some airplane show, Manifest.
Yeah.
Or something. After
Um,
like 2 episodes, like I know I'm not going to finish the show. So every once in a while, I'll just periodically just go and check like Wikipedia. Like, did they really tell what the mystery is yet? And then that's it.
I stopped watching that show and then I started watching it again
Why'd you restart it? Well, why
was-
did you stop it?
because I was like, this makes no sense. And then I started watching because one of the characters in the show is cute.
Anyway, so on my end, I would say, especially in that situation, essentially just being lost, right? It was less of the fear of the unknown and more of that idea of like trust, because I'm like, at that point when you're driving, my trust is in the GPS.
Yep.
Right. I don't have a regular map in my car that I'm gonna pull out and be like, okay, I'm here and this and that, right? And technically, the GPS did take me to where I told it to
input it,
take
yeah.
me.
Mhm.
It was my mistake for putting in the wrong address. I was a letter off, right?
Mm.
But yeah, I think at that point it becomes this idea of like, when you can't trust the thing you're relying on, you get that sense of uncertainty. And even then, like going back to like the roller coaster stuff we were talking about last week,
Mhm.
right? If you've ever been in a roller coaster and you start to like move in the seat, and that split second of
What do you mean move in the seat?
like, have you ever been in a roller or any type of ride where like even though you're strapped in,
Oh, like it.
there's still like some wiggle room
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah.
That is worse than the roller coaster, right? And I'm like, because now you're not trusting, because the whole point of the roller coaster is you're just trusting the fact that this buckle is gonna keep me from dying. And now me and the buckle are moving. Like, that's not.
Well, yeah, but the buckle's not moving that much.
I don't want to risk it. How? You
Because
know,
I'll always do like a little test, right? Because you know how like the one that comes like this.
yeah.
I'll always just like just to see how much it moves, just so I can like set a ground in my head, like okay, it's gonna move this much. But then if it moves more than that while I'm in the ride, that's a whole different story.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it just starts moving. Like, oh wait, no, you're not supposed to do that.
That's
So,
why I test it before we start moving. You know?
I don't do that. So
Well, next time, you're welcome. The more you know. Oh, I don't know if that's copyrighted. The star.
there's no star when you go like this. It's just
You've seen the more you know
I
thing.
know, but we have to worry
But like
about
the
copyright if you're-
motion,
They
because
can't-
I
they can't copyright
I
the
started the
motion.
tune. I started the tune. Anyway, so a lot of times when we are in these situations of uncertainty, it's the issue is our lack of trust, and it a lot of times it's like our willingness to trust. It depends on what it is that we're trusting. So like when you're on the roller coaster, do you trust the mechanism keeping you in the seat? Do you trust the person that has tested this ride to make sure that it was safe for you to go on, right? And a lot of times in like regular everyday life situations, it's, do we trust the situation that we're in? Are we putting our trust in the situation we're in or in the God that has put us here? And I think that's kind of where a lot of people tend to struggle, because you put your trust in the situation that you're in and in the things that you know, rather than the God that has infinite wisdom and guidance for you to follow.
A lot of the times, not a lot of times. I know it's been described to me as sort of when it comes to putting your faith in God, which I feel is kind of what we're talking about a little bit.
Yep.
It's this idea of like if you've like gone overboard on a ship, right? Or like your ship sank or something and you're holding on to like a small piece of wood, your rose on the door of the Titanic thing.
For the
And
record,
let's not get into that right now. But
he could fit.
but you do that, right? And then another boat comes by and they throw you like the little lifesaver thing, the little donut thing.
The donut.
right? Do you? It's a question of, do you hold on to that piece of wood, or do you take the risk and grab on to the lifesaver, right? And I think for a lot of us,
Question.
yes,
What is the risk in taking the lifesaver? Like the random people or?
whatever it is. I mean, if you're afloat on this piece of wood, right, and you know you're afloat,
Mhm.
do you let go of that
Oh,
to grab
possibly
onto something
sink
else,
on. Okay.
right?
Okay.
So yeah, I think for a lot of people, there is. I think there's sometimes a comfort in, even though the situation is not ideal, the risk of moving from here and it getting worse,
Hmm.
that uncertainty is often such a driving factor in us not taking that step forward, right? Of us not grabbing, like, what happens if, Rose jumps off the door and misses, like, the lifesaver starts drowning, like,
Hmm.
like, oh, I can't swim, so if I don't get, if I'm not attached to something, I'm going
Yeah.
down. So I think for a lot of us, it's that sort of idea of, well, I don't have control in this situation, but in this very moment, I'm okay as can be.
Yeah. Like I know what it is that I don't know now.
Yeah. And to change this status quo
Mhm.
is so scary that maybe I won't shift my faith into something else.
Mhm.
And I think that's what happens to a lot of people.
Yeah. And I think that's actually a pretty good analogy, like the life preserver versus the door. And so as we're starting our walk with God, how often have you ever felt unsure of your relationship with him? Well, I don't need like a number, but like have there been instances where you were unsure of your relationship?
I think I was more unsure of myself than him. So I like can say that I like fully like trust him to get me through a situation, but in terms of like fully like doing what I need to do like to receive that peace from him, I'm not like. So it's like all on me. It's like I trust him, but like I don't trust myself to like sometimes like I'm unsure with myself on like whether I can put all my like be reliant on him, if that makes sense.
I think for me, it's been a case of, like, if I compare myself to others, it's like, God, why are you doing this for that person, but you're not doing it for me?
Mm.
Right? That person, we're praying for the same situation, yet you're clearly making it happen for them. You're not doing it for me. Why are you not doing it for me? I think in those situations, I've become unsure of my relationship with God.
Like I kind of get what you're saying when you say it's a lack of trust in yourself, because I like a lot of times we know that once we do rely on him and trust in God, like he will lead us and guide us through it. But again, it's that risk of stepping out and taking the life preserver. Like what if I drown in as I'm reaching out for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what if you don't? Right? Like what if you make it to the life preserver, right? And you get pulled to the boat and you're saved. I think that's the important step where it's like you have to be comfortable making yourself uncomfortable in a lot of situations, because he didn't call us to be comfortable, right? He called us to go out into the world, right? And to spread the gospel to people that are like likely going to reject it or deny it or say that's not true or I don't want to change my life. But once we are able to rely and trust fully in the fact that he is the all-knowing, all-powerful, all-present God, then that's kind of when you like we spoke about in the last episode, like you can feel that pressure, you get relieved from your shoulders, right? And there was a quote that I had come across, or like someone had said something that I came across, and it was like, God doesn't want his children guessing about our relationship with him. He wants to instill confidence in us so that not only in so that wait, hold on. He wants to instill in us confidence that we are not only in right standing with him, but we are also his children promised eternal life. So as we're building this relationship with God, right? He isn't leaving any room for uncertainty, right? Because he has stated explicitly, like, this is who I am, and these are the things I can do for your life. It's up to you now to take that step of trusting in who he says he is. And I guess the question would be, how do we find that assurance? Like, how do we, like, it's easy to say, I know God can do it, and I know God will get me through it, but how do we actually take that step and believe in that? How do we find that assurance in him?
I think it's making sure that your relationship is stable, and like doing all the things necessary to like to build yourself up as strong as you can, to trust in him. If I don't know if that made sense, but
Along those same lines, I think it goes back to what we were talking about a few weeks ago about having that firm foundation.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think assurance in any relationship is based on the foundation you have in the relationship. Right? If you ask your friend for something, right, the assurance that they're going to do it for you is really based on how well do you know them, right? So I think to what you were saying, the having that foundation with God gives you the assurance, right? I mean, there's other things such as like his word gives you the assurance that if you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to have eternal life. So there's that, right? But then again, if you don't have a foundation of trusting what God says, it really doesn't matter what you read in the Bible, because if you don't trust it, it doesn't really help. So I think having that foundation of, okay, I trust, as you said before, right? I trust you like explicitly, right? If I trust you explicitly and God, you said I have eternal life, then I have eternal life, right? That's the assurance, right? The assurance is the relationship, right? And I think, going back to the boat example, or even I don't know if you've seen like on the news. I know this happened a few weeks ago. There was a fire and like firefighters had to like rappel down a building to like get a guy off like the ledge, right? Because like he couldn't go back in and he was just stuck. And it was just, as we were talking, I was just thinking like, the guy was hanging there. He could have just been like, no, I'm gonna just hold on, because he was holding on to the ledge. He could have just kept doing that. Yeah, right. But same thing. Even if you think of Rose on the door, even though in that moment it's working, there's still that fear of, well, if I let go of this for a split second, then I'm gonna fall. Something's gonna happen. Yet, looking from the outside in, it's illogical to think that you're gonna survive if you just hang on a ledge forever. And I think for us, when it comes to assurance we have in God, I think sometimes us just actually letting go of what we've been holding on to for so long and just letting God take control of the situation becomes the assurance. Just as we said before, having the experience with God, right? Taking that step from I know God is going to do it and turning that knowledge into an experience with him becomes an assurance in and of itself. And sometimes that may be the only way to get that assurance. You just have to literally just give him the opportunity to do what he says he's going to do in your life.
I think, and I feel like there's not even like, I can't even tell anyone how to do that. Like you just have to, I feel like the common phrase, like just let go and let God, because that experience for everyone is going to be a little bit different, right? So the situation that I might be looking to God for help in, that I need to let go and just let him move in my life, is going to be completely different than someone else. So I feel like we can say like you just have to trust in him, but until you're in that situation where you realize like these are my only options, I can either try to do it on my own, or I can like rely and put my faith in the fact that God is going to get me through it. Until you're like at that point, I don't like it's I feel like it'll be hard to, maybe not hard to understand, but it's like it's one of those experiences where you need to experience it for yourself. Like we were talking about the one chip challenge type of thing. Like I see that people are trusting in God and they're getting through it, but until I can do that myself, I'm never gonna know like the extent to which God can move in my life.
Yes, I also think that if you're the person telling someone to let go and let God, it also helps if you can tell them, hey, when I let go
Yeah.
and let God, I saw this and this happen. Because I think sometimes, often, we kind of give the platitudes of just let go, let trust God, and
Yeah.
I'm praying for you. And I'm not saying don't pray for people, but I'm also saying sometimes we need more than just a platitude of God's gonna do it for you, right? Because what does that really mean?
Yeah.
Right? Like honestly, like I know people have told me sometimes, God's gonna do it for you. I'm like, do what?
Yeah.
Like honestly, just do what? Right? Especially when they themselves are unfamiliar with the situation. I'm like, what does that mean? And again, I'm not knocking someone that's saying it because they have good intentions and things like that. I just think that as believers, we're more effective when we move past good intentions with a platitude, but can actually be real with some people and say, one of the past Sundays, someone in the church gave a testimony, right? She was here trying to get a kidney transplant, and then all these other things happened. I think broke both knees, if I remember correctly, right? And then now is stuck in New York because both knees had to get surgery and all that, double cast on the legs, then eventually gets a kidney and all that. Now, perfectly fine, right? And I'm just thinking, there's other people who probably need kidneys and stuff, and me saying, yeah, God's gonna do it, right? What does that mean as compared to that lady saying, God's gonna do it, but here's what it looks like, right? Because I think if you explain, hey, yeah, God healed me, but he brought me, like, there was so much stuff that happened that a lot of things didn't feel good, right? I think it changed our perspective because now when you're going through the same situation, you're going through stuff that doesn't feel good, you're like, oh no, it's not an absence of God. God is still here. This is just the way he's leading me through it. I feel like you were trying to say something.
No.
Okay.
And I think a lot of times when we're looking for God to say something or to move within our lives, we're expecting it within our parameters. But like you said, it's important to have like that, like some like others' experiences, because it'll show you, like it can broaden your perspective. Like, well, God spoke to these different people in a lot of these different ways, and maybe I wasn't thinking about looking for him in those places. And that can also kind of help you find that assurance that he is speaking to you, but you're just not listening. And I think, I've been saying I think a lot, but I think that that's one of the important things, right? Because a lot of times God is speaking to you, you're just not listening to him because you want it to be like an explicit, like, this is the voice of God speaking to you, like I'm here right now. But a lot of times a lot of times it can be in the smaller instances. Like, I know for me, like sometimes if I'm going through something, right, and I'm praying about it and I'm taking it to God, like there'll be times when I'm just feeling like just a feeling of like comfort or just like ease, right? And a lot of times you can be like, oh, it's because my mind was distracted or whatever. But like when you look back on the situations, it's like, no, that was God. Like that was him, like my encounter with him in that moment for the situation or whatever. And it's little things like that that kind of helped me build my assurance in God and who he is in my life. Because I think if I hadn't looked back and put like two and two together, it's easy to just overwrite certain experiences. It's just like, oh, that's just like life.
And to that, I think a lot of times we want, again, we want things on our terms,
Mhm.
right? So, as you said, right, I think when it comes to God, we want to hear God as this loud, thunderous voice,
Mhm.
right? So there's no uncertainty, there's no question. But again, when it comes to building a relationship, even looking in the Bible, God often doesn't
Mhm.
talk in this thunderous, loud voice. He's often quiet and still, but I mean, the only time I can really think of him really being loud would have been like Jesus being baptized and the Holy Spirit comes down the dove, right? But, and even then it was such few words too,
Mhm.
But I just think that a lot of times, because we want God to do things on our, in, not on our time, well, yeah, on our time too, but we're looking also for, like, I feel like the simplest way, right? The
Mhm.
simplest way for God to talk to us would be a loud voice, right?
Ah,
Because I don't have to pay attention to anything,
yeah.
right? I don't, right? If I pray and then all of a sudden half the neighborhood hears God give me an answer, right? I don't have to I don't have to work at a relationship
Mhm.
when God is doing everything. He's just feeding me like I'm a baby.
Do you know it would be so much easier to like evangelize and stuff at that point too, because then they'd be like, "How do you know he's real? Did you not hear that boisterous voice calling out to me from beyond? Like, hello?"
But I good point. Why doesn't he do that? No, but but I think that's one of the issues a lot of us have. Like,
Mhm.
the other day, I was on the phone with one of my friends, and I'm telling about something I'm going through, and he's like, "Yo, why don't you just go talk to the people?" And I'm like, "Nah," because I was they were just like afraid of what they were gonna say, and he's like, "Okay, they're either gonna say yes or no." I was like, "It's not that you're not making sense, right? It's just," he's like, "Yeah, no, I get it. You're scared, blah 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 blah." And his little response was, "All right, you need to go talk to these people. Like, go text them right now. Get off the phone, me text them. Take a screenshot and send them me so I know you spoke to them." I was like, "What? No, I'm not doing that." And it was a whole thing, but ultimately he was right. But again, I wanted to do it in a way in which I felt safe and protected. There was
Mhm.
no risk to me, right? Because I wanted the simplest way for things to happen. And with God, it's often not the simplest way, it's the way that He is choosing to talk to us.
Mhm. And so, I guess with that, did you have anything? Okay. How do we continue to believe in the name of the Son of God? So, like in verse 13, right? It says, um, "These things I have written to you who believe in the name of the Son of God, that you may know that you have eternal life, and that you may continue to believe in the name of the Son of God." So it says it twice, that you should believe and continue to believe in the name of the Son of God. How do we do that? What does that mean?
Um, well, for me, I personally, the way that I continue to believe is because I know that he's done it before, and he's like, I can testify in like many moments of my life where I felt like I didn't know the outcome, and I was like, in that fear of the unknown moment, and I was like
And you can't watch
anxious.
the spoilers for your
Exactly.
life.
I wish. Prayed about it. He said no. Um,
But you listened, you heard.
right.
Look at you.
But yeah, and then it's just, he got me through that. So then I'm like, okay, like I know you've done this for me before. I personally experienced it. I've seen what you've done for other people, and I know who you are.
Mm.
I think just continuing to believe in God or the Son of God, it's to what you said. You just have to keep experiencing Him. All right. I think, again, it's a relationship. If you're not working at it, the relationship will,
Dwindle.
it's gonna dwindle. It'll get stagnant, and then eventually,
Mm.
instead of growing, it's going to just start to dwindle and die, right? So if you're not continually trying to experience God, talking to Him, reaching out to Him, allowing Him to talk to you, you know, how can you continue to believe in Him when you have no relationship with Him?
Yeah, I think you have to choose to continue to believing in him. You have to make that conscious effort to remind yourself, because I know, like, a lot of times it can be easy to forget that he has gotten you through certain things, right? You can be like, oh, well, I came up with this strategy, I did this, this, and this. But it was like, how did you come up with that, right? Like, where did that wisdom come from? Where did that guidance come from? And yeah, so like you were saying, it's a relationship. So you have to, in any relationship, you need to choose it, right? So like in a friendship, you have to choose to continue to speak to that person, to relate to them or whatever. And it's kind of the same thing with God. It's just, but I feel like it's more intimate with God, because you can show him your innermost like beings that you may not want to show other people, right? And as you continue to do that, and then you can find that assurance in him, and that he will accept you, right? And he will help you to become the person that he needs you to be, that he's leading you to be. And so as we have chosen to continue to believe in the Son of God, when you have seen him move, right, either in your life or in other people's life, has it always been as you expected it to be? I know we've kind of said like a lot of times it happens in ways we're not looking for it, but has it been like, have you expected God to move in that way, either in your life or other people's? Do you want me to restate the question?
Yes.
Okay. So when you have seen God moving in either your life or other people's life, right, is it as you expected? Like, did you think, oh, God is going to do this? Or like this was God speaking right off the bat?
Yes and no. I don't think like I have ever expected him to, like, I knew how he was gonna do it, but I believed in, like, yeah, I believe that you have the power. If this is like your will, like, I know that you can make this happen. So I expected it in that way, but not so much like maybe how he did it. And I feel like even in moments in my life when he's like, talked to me or like reached out, sometimes I like test it, and I'm like, well, I heard you like give me this like peace when I was like really anxious or something, right? And like, but like, show me another sign of like maybe just to make sure that this was actually you, and like it wasn't like just
It was just
random.
like another, you need reassurance.
Yeah.
To make sure. Okay.
I think I've seen him do both. I think I've seen him move in sort of the expected way, which is, I think a lot of times when like people get healed, right? Because that's kind of just the expectation that you pray for healing and they get healed. And I've seen that happen. I've also seen when I've prayed for stuff, or people I know have prayed for things, and he's done it, but it's also been in like this really like roundabout sort of way, right? Because you're thinking, okay, he's gonna just do the easiest way,
Straightforward
path of least resistance, but he does things in his own way, brings people through sort of these weird situations, right? It's still a good outcome. It's just, again, the same thing with the lady that got the kidney transplant the transplant she needed. She still went through a lot of things that you wouldn't have thought of her going through when you're thinking of, okay, you're praying to God that she gets a kidney and things like that. So I think it's, as you said, it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. I think a lot of times, even in reference to the same woman that had to go through so many different struggles before she finally like overcame and came out at the other end better off than she started, it might not be as drastic in your life, but a lot of times you are going through certain struggles because you need to learn certain things, right? And someone, I was on like Instagram or something the other day, and someone was like, a lot of times some people are going through the same struggles because they're not learning the lesson. And it's like, you know what, you a little right. You a little right about that. Cause like I was like looking back at my own life and I was like, why am I going through the same thing over and over again? And it's like because I'm not changing anything about it.
Mhm.
And so like even like little things what? Oh, I thought you had a comment. You made a motion. And I was like, do you know what? I have noticed this in my life and it's a new year, right? We're gonna do something about it this time. And so I have started to make little changes in my life and it's like, God, he was really trying to tell me something. And it was up to me to just listen to what it is that he was telling me and just be like assured about the fact that he was there this whole time. And it was just, the problem was me. Hi. I said it backwards, but you got the reference. But yeah, so like a lot of times he is there. It's just up to us to listen to him and to find like to rest in him and who he is in us. And let me see. Yeah, so actually I'll end it with this last question that I have there. Once we did see God move or we found that reassurance in him, how did that change your confidence in your salvation or in your faith in God? Because God.
Yeah, I was saying I don't know if it necessarily changed my confidence in myself.
That was
In
the
my
question in the
salvation?
study, but I feel like your faith or like your walk is better.
I mean, I can understand to some extent, but I think for me, and maybe it's just where I am with God,
Mm.
my salvation is not really in question,
Yeah.
right? I think it's just sometimes like the depth of the relationship with God is sometimes in question. Like
Mm.
how close are we, God? Right? Are we as close as we should be? Do I need to get closer? Or am I drifting away? So I think a lot of times when I see God move in, I think just when I see God move, it always brings me closer, whether it's in an expected way or
Mm.
unexpected way. Seeing him move always just makes me go, oh yeah, no, I need to talk to you more. I need to get a little closer to you somehow. Just keep pursuing that relationship and building that relationship.
Yeah, same. I agree completely to what he said. I feel like when I seen him move, like I just feel confident all around, and I'm like, okay, like what can I do to like keep this up? What can I do to like so next time maybe like I hear you more clearly than this time, or like our relationship is that much closer than it was last time.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, I feel like that's a good place to end it. So I just have one last question for the audience in closing. And that is, won't he do it? Thank you.